Hello, my friend. I hope you are doing well, and if you're wondering why I have gloves on, it'll all make sense in a moment. So, as all of you know at this point, not only because of the bookshelf that I have in the back— oh wait, how do I do this? But there's a bookshelf in the back somewhere, you can kind of see it. Absolutely loaded with video games, on top of the other hundreds of video games that aren't even able to fit on that shelf, which I am saving up to get a second bookshelf so I can actually— I mean, even at that point, if I do get a second bookshelf, it wouldn't be enough to hold all my games. I'd probably need to get at least 4 or 5, but, you know, hopefully I can get a second one to then store more of my games, but at the moment, a lot of my video games are either just sitting in my closet or in my dresser where my clothes should be, but instead I usually have my clothes either just sitting in a basket or in a garbage bag that I just kind of sort through because video games are the priority here. Anyway, I'm a huge video game collector, and with that comes a specific part of my collection that I am the least proud of. I'm not proud of this part of my collection at all. And it has nothing to do with the games that are actually present in this collection, rather it is how they are being stored. So I kind of left it in the background here as a little Easter egg, just in case anybody was eagle-eyed enough to spot this. But if you don't know what this is a CD binder, and you already know what is wrong with this before I already open it. As a video game collector, and not just a video game collector, but somebody that just respects physical media in general, I try to have all of my video games and other forms of media like CDs and Blu-rays and DVDs and VHSs CIB. I don't necessarily need the manual, though I typically prefer to have the manual, but at the very least, I would like to have it in a case with the original cover art if possible, but again, we're talking about a CD binder here. So it goes without saying that none of these games are CIB, which means when I open it, yes, we have some amazing games in here, and yes, this entire binder is full, and it is full of specifically PlayStation 1 games, but none of them are CIB. Now, I'm on a bit of a mission, and I know it's gonna cost me a lot of money, but hold on, let me go grab an original PS1 game, because it is worth clarifying before we get into this, just to kind of explain, like, what we're going over here today, is this is not my entire PS1 collection. I have many other PS1 games outside of this, dozens, if not close to 100, if not more, actually, outside of this, including some of the all-time classics, like Final Fantasy VII, and Dino Crisis, and Resident— in fact, there is a Dino Crisis game in here. I forget if it's Dino Crisis— I think Dino Crisis 2 is in here. I think Dino Crisis 1 is the one that I actually have CIB. Also have other ones like, you know, the Resident Evil trilogy on the PS1, as well as the spin-offs like Survivor and stuff like that. So just to give you guys an idea of how PS1 games are supposed to look, they either come in one of a few cases. There is also the long box cases, which were a very niche time for the PlayStation 1, where early on you had certain games where they were released in these long boxes, very akin to something like, you know, like the Sega CD, for example, except instead it was obviously PlayStation 1 cases, but that's not what we're talking about specifically. What I'm talking about specifically here for what I plan to do with all of these games is the standard jewel cases. So you have the front cover here, it's basically just like a normal CD case, except, you know, it's like a PlayStation jewel case, and then when you open it up, this case unfortunately is a little broken, it doesn't have the bottom piece there, but you get the idea. Normally you would open it up, it would open up like that, and the cover art would also double as your manual right there. Then you have the, you know, the disc right there, and then usually the back cover would be double-sided, so you have the back, and then on the other side of the back, you can see right there, there's still some imagery there. So here's the thing. When I was trying to print out some of these cover arts, because, I mean, I'm sure you can tell where I'm going with this, my plan is to buy many of these jewel cases to give these games a proper home, and along with that, print out the cover arts. Now, I had great success with that, so I already tried printing out the cover art for this game. Unfortunately, though, I was unable to find it. However, I was able to find the back and inside covers that I had already previously printed, so as you can see here, I mean, it looks like the official thing. This is for Crash Bandicoot, specifically Crash 2, Cortex Strikes Back. But yeah, I have the inside cover here as well as the back cover, and if you've seen a PlayStation 1 case before, you know that this looks very official. The only problem is I would like to print it on both sides, which is possible with printers. However, when I try to print it on both sides, there isn't exactly a way for me to get it to be symmetrical or to line up on each side to where when I cut it, it would actually, you know, fit as it's supposed to. It kept like being misaligned. I tried so many different things, tried looking up so many different things, and I was having no luck. So if there's any ways that you guys know how to work around that, please let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to be printing, I guess, 2 papers or whatever, something like that for the inside and back cover, and then printing the front cover separately, which means, unfortunately, I won't have any of the manuals for these games. But also, there is some PlayStation 1 games, which there is many in here that came on multiple discs, and they would require one of these double jewel cases, which, you open it up, you got like a disc on one side, open it up, no, Gran Turismo! It's okay, baby, I love you. Let's see, okay, yeah, okay, it's fine, the disc is still in great condition. It's amazing, right? Like, this game, it came out almost 2.5 decades ago, and actually, no, exactly 2.5 decades ago, because it released in 99. Obviously, the greatest hits version came a little later, just because, they do the initial run and then print the greatest hits towards the end of a console's life cycle, just to, kind of get games out there at a reduced price so they can maybe boost up sales at the last minute, and also just, make it more accessible and affordable to those like me that were poor at the time. But, yeah, anyway, this is my original greatest hits copy from back in the day, and yet it is still in flawless, beautiful condition. So, if you ever see a game in my collection, you can be sure that it's going to be in great condition as far as the game is concerned. Obviously, some things have happened over the years to where, like, sometimes the jewel cases were prone to kind of breaking like this, so there is a few instances like this. But to be fair, this game wasn't even mine originally. This one was actually my mother's, which she then just kind of was like, hey, you know what, you can hold on to it. So, because I genuinely do love this game. I played it all the time as a kid. There was a lot of games like that, right? Because obviously growing up, well, one of the first consoles that I played on was the PlayStation 1, and I mainly grew up during the PS2 generation, but some of the first consoles I played on were the SNES and PS1, so there was a lot of examples where, my mom was just like, hey, you know what, this was a game that I played a lot, but since you're the gamer and the collector, you can hold on to it. I know it'll be in great hands, and I really do appreciate her and am thankful for that. Anyway, if you couldn't tell, this is going to be one of those overly longer than it probably needs to be, in-depth discussions about some of these games. So we're not going to be necessarily analyzing every single game and going over each one in a particular way of like, oh, I'm going to give you a whole retrospective on every single game in here, but I do at least want to run through some of the titles. Anyway, the best way to do this would probably be to flip the camera around and give you guys the awkward first-person perspective that we've done from time to time on the channel, where I don't exactly have the proper setup for that type of video, but we're going to attempt to do it anyway. That's also why on my fourth channel, Grotesque Plus, there hasn't been any new content lately, because this is a lot of the content that I would like to make over there, where it's just more in-depth, rambly, long discussions, but, with a lot of, like, first-person perspectives, whether it be looking back at old gaming magazines or video games in general. But obviously, I don't necessarily have the proper setup or equipment to do that yet, so that's why I haven't proceeded with making it the content there. But anyway, let's go ahead and go through the binder. Again, I'll point at games and be like, oh yeah, I love that game, childhood nostalgia classic, but I don't want to linger on just one game for too long, because there is so many that we have to go through in this binder. And I know it's going to cost me a lot of money to print out the cover arts and, buy the cases and stuff. But again, I'll get there when I get there. At least they have a temporary home for the meantime. But anyway, let's get into the analyzing of the collection. Well, that's going to be fun for me to edit. So for you guys, that was literally a quick cut. However, for me, that was a grueling couple of minutes where I was trying to figure out an ideal way to record this. And I came to the realization that with my current setup, there was no way for me to actually record this in a first-person way without holding the camera and potentially making everybody motion sick. So instead, we're gonna do this show and tell, or teacher style, where I just kind of hold it up for you guys, and then we'll kind of go through everything together. So I'm just gonna kind of try to get somewhat comfortable here, maybe readjust the microphone so you can still hear my god-awful, annoying, just terrible voice. Alrighty, is that in frame? No, maybe I gotta make it a little bit lower. Yeah, we just need the games to be in frame here. So we got 007, Tomorrow Never Dies, as well as Airboat Racing. Flipping to the next page, we got Animorphs, Shattered Reality. And if you're wondering why I'm going through every single game, it's because for some of these games, while yes, there is cover arts for them on the Cover Project website, or whatever the actual name for it is. You guys know what I'm talking about for you video game collectors or just retro enthusiasts out there. But for some of the games, obviously, they don't have every single cover art. For some of them, there's missing. So if there's any that stick out in your mind where you're looking through, where, like, I pointed out and you know for a fact off the top of your head that the cover art is either hard to find for it or that it isn't on that website, if there's anything in here where you guys know you'd be able to help me out in some capacity as to actually finding the cover art or whatever for it, or the inside parts or the back covers, I'd really appreciate a bit of help, because obviously I have a good bit to go through. So, anyway, we'll keep going here. Animorphs, Shattered Reality, Aquanauts, Holiday. Sorry, I'm trying to read it at an angle. Asteroids, Batman, Gotham City Racer. I love that game, dude. So much nostalgia for that one. Billiards, Blast Radius, Bloody Roar 2. Bloody Roar, man. That series, fantastic. Casper, Friends Around the World. A lot of nostalgia for that one as well. I have a lot of nostalgia for old school licensed games, whether that be, I mean, you know, even the ones on like the SNES with like Lion King and Aladdin, or, you know, even the Sega Genesis version of Aladdin, because I was one of those kids where I played both of them just because my dad was more of a Sega guy and my mom was more of a Nintendo gal, so I got the best of both worlds. I got my Marios and my Streets of Rage and my Sonic and all that. Centipede, published by Atari right there. I always love seeing the Atari publishing label on games, whether it be a newer game or an older game, just because, I don't know, I guess it's a nostalgia thing, just because growing up, me and my pap used to play a lot of Atari games together. He introduced me to a lot of them, and yeah, I love Atari games in general. To this day, I still go back and play 2600 games at least once a week. I love Atari games, and I also love that Atari 2600 Plus thing that they just came out with a bit ago. It really captures the nostalgia. It's a great system, and I also play the one Atari like collection that they had on PS Vita, where you could either play in like the classic mode or like the remade 3D style there. Like that was like a solid collection slash remake of games. We also got a whole bunch. Oh wow, I just realized the camera's actually a little bit off from where it probably should be. Sorry about that. Anyway, then we got a bunch of Command & Conquer here. Love Command & Conquer. Love my RTSs. So we got Command & Conquer Disc 1, Disc 2, and then also Red Alert. Both fantastic games. Then I have Crash 2 and Crash 3 in here, and if you're wondering where Crash 1 is, don't worry, I have that one CIB, so we're all good there. And if you're wondering why so many of these games are missing cases, it's just one of those things where I've acquired them through various means over the years, whether that be through thrift stores or, you know, just like acquiring some from my stepdad because he also gave me a bunch, or, you know, just other people that I've known in my past. Not gonna go too in depth there just for the privacy of people related in the situations. Gosh, I'm terrible at like skirting around specific details. Or also just like specific games that I've found for cheap or conveniently and was like, okay, I'll just find a case for it later. So that's how that happened. Also, I've moved many times across the years, so sometimes things happen there. Croc, I love Croc. Such an amazing 3D platformer. We need Croc. I know there's like Croc's World on the Switch, but that ain't Croc. Obviously, I'm just memeing around when I say that we have Croc on the Switch. That was made by like some third party and was definitely not an officially licensed out thing. Cyber Tiger, Digimon Digital Card Battle. I love the Digital Card Battle game. Digimon World 3, Dino Crisis 2. Oh man, I love my Dino Crisis. Even saying the name, it makes me so sad that I don't have that one CIB, but I'll print out the cover and get the case before too long. And, you know, as a collector, I always try to get my games with the official cover arts, with the official cases, but it's one of those things where I don't mind printing out the cases in this case. No, but no, would that be a pun? No cases in this case? But it's one of those situations where there's so many games in here and so many niche games to where I've looked on eBay, I've looked on Mercari, I've looked on Poshmark, I've looked everywhere, and there's just some games that do not have case-only versions available online, and trying to get some of them CIB just because there is some games that cost a bit more in here would cost me an arm, leg, and possibly a kidney, or both. Now we get into some of the Disney stuff, just because when I was organizing this binder, I decided to put all the Disney stuff together since part of the name was technically Disney's 102 Dalmatians. Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire, but now in retrospect, I don't know why I went through that phase for a bit, but nowadays when I organize my games, I always do it by title and not like Disney. So rather than doing like Disney's Epic Mickey, like, you know, before I would have put that with the D's, now I put it with the E's, because I just think Epic Mickey. Again, I don't know why I did this. I also did that with Marvel games for a time, but anyway, 102 Dalmatians, and then Aladdin, I don't know how to say that correctly, Nasira's Revenge, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, Monsters Inc. Pinball Panic, which is actually not a PS1 game, this is a PC game. This is just one that I also lost a case for. The Emperor's New Groove, Tarzan, Tigger's Honey Hunt. I love Tigger's Honey Hunt. Such a fun and cute little 2D platformer, collectathon thing there. And then we have Driver. All I'm gonna say is Garage. And if you're a retro gamer, or if you played that game before, that's all you need to hear. I did beat that game before, but that Garage, that took me a minute. Duke Nukem, Time to Kill, an underrated Duke Nukem game right there. Fisherman Bait, okay, yeah, I'm trying to hold it up in a better way to where I can read it, but you can still see it too. And then Fisherman's Bait, a Bass Challenge, Frogger, The Great Quest, a PS2 game. There is some PS2 games in here, which I don't mind going out and getting actual cases or just full-on new copies before, because PS2, it's a little different from CDs, you know what I mean? Frogger, The Great Quest, a great 3D platformer, published by Konami as well, but yeah, that game's great. It's like a 3D platformer collectathon in the vein of something like Spyro, for example, but it's a great game. Gex Enter the Gecko, love Gex. We just had the Gex trilogy either come out or is coming out soon. I don't know. I keep up with new releases all the time, but sometimes for re-releases and remasters, things kind of get lost in the weeds for me, just because I already had the original copy, so I don't necessarily always pick up remasters right off the rip, unless I'm like, there's like a really specific reason that I'd want to, like Resident Evil 4. I have to have Resident Evil 4 and everything because it's my favorite game of all time, and yes, I have purchased it at least 12 times, if not more at this point. No, definitely more at this point. Gran Tour Racing, the first Gran Turismo right there. Really sad I don't have a case for that one yet. Grudge Warriors, Hardcore 4x4, Intelligent Cube, Jersey Devil. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss any pages there. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, another one where it's like, oh, I wish I had the case for that one, because, I mean, it's Soul Reaver. Soul Reaver is so good, man. And there's been some leaks and rumors of the game potentially coming back, so if that would happen, I mean... Oh man, that gets me so excited, man. Soul Reaver and Soul Reaver 2, just such amazing games. Then we have Medieval 2. The first one got remastered a couple years ago, or remade a couple years ago, rather. But unfortunately, the second game did not get the same treatment, which is really a shame, because the second game, not only do I feel is it unfortunately overlooked, but it is just such a fantastic game as well. But I do kind of understand that first one is just like a bit of a cult classic, and between the two, if there was only one that they were going to do, of course do the first one, just to bring it up to a modern audience. Modern, whatever you want to call it, modern graphics and all that. I was actually really happy to see, though, that they did keep the remake very faithful to the original, and, you know, everything intact between the controls, the story, the game. Like, very little was changed, and for anything that was changed, which was very slight, was more or less just to make the game, I don't know, I guess less brutal, because while PS1 games weren't as brutal as some SNES, or specifically, like, NES games, it was still in that era where some games were definitely a bit harder than they maybe necessarily needed to be, whether it be to pad out game length or just because that's how games were at the time. It was just more about the challenge and just making you be stuck on it for months at a time, or, you know, that's also when rentals were having a thing, or when rentals were a thing. So you've probably seen a lot of, like, Blockbuster stickers in here on some of the games because, yes, making harder games drove up those rental sales back in the day because then you'd have to rent the game for multiple times or come back, and you know what I mean. It's just one of those things, just trying to keep you coming back and coming back, sort of like gacha games, how they try to keep you coming back every day. That's sort of how the rental services was, and it's crazy for me because, like, you know, I vividly remember going into Blockbuster, picking up movies and games and such, and nowadays talking about Blockbuster, there's probably some younger people watching this who are like, what, a Buster Block? What's that? I also heard Redbox just shut down a bit ago, which is really sad. I do remember renting games and movies, especially movies. Me and my mom used to, there was like a bit of a routine or tradition, I guess you could say, where like every weekend, you know, we pick out a movie from Redbox and watch it together as a family, you know, me, her, and my little brother, which was always nice. But yeah, unfortunately, Redbox, they're gone now. They did stop doing video game rentals a couple of years ago, but yeah, now they're just completely gone, which does suck. I think they were also doing some liquidation sales. I don't know if they're still happening, but if they are, then maybe you could pick up some of those for cheap. Wow, I just dated this video. Anytime that you mention anything that is relevant currently, you automatically date a video, but tis what it is. Tis the meta of creating content in the first place. So anyway, Medieval 2, Monopoly, then we go ahead and turn the page. Mortal Kombat, Special Forces, never got the hate for this game. Always really enjoyed that one, honestly. And then Miss Pac-Man, Maze Madness, NBA Live 2000, Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 3, another one where I'm like, oh man, why don't I have a case for that one? Same with Mortal Kombat Special Forces, wish I had that one CIB, but I will soon enough, hopefully. CIB. Unofficially, but still CIB. Rugrats, Search for Raptor, Nuclear Strike, Pipe Dreams 3D, Rampage 2, Universal Tour. Man, the nostalgia gets going just by seeing that disc. There is nothing quite like just hopping into Rampage, smashing up some buildings, destroying some helicopters, racking up the score, just blasting through the campaign, rescuing your animal buddies, and just causing some rampage. It's a great game. I wish that those games could come back, even if it's just like a small remaster or port up or something like that, just so modern audiences could experience it, because man, it is so good. And unfortunately, you know, just with the way modern audiences are, it's hard to convince everybody to go out and pick up an N64 or a PS1 just to play those games. So that is the one thing where I've always said that I never feel like games necessarily need remakes or remasters. Games are simply products of their time. You know, video games are a work of art. You wouldn't say that the Mona Lisa needs a remake or a remaster just because it's older at this point or less accessible at this point. Like, no, it is simply a product of its time, and it's just a work of art as it is. It doesn't need any improvements. It's, you know, flaws and all, perfections and all. It's perfect the way it is. Everything that video game is what makes it a piece of art. And that's just my, you know, that's my perspective on it. Video games are just art and should be respected as such. That being said, remakes and remasters can be very beneficial for a game in the case of like Rampage, where it's like, hey, that's an absolute classic, and, you know, if it was on modern consoles, it would just simply be more accessible and easier for people to get into it or just know about it in the first place. So, really hope we could see that game come back in some way, or that series, rather, because there was multiple of them. Real Fishing 2, Road Rash 3D. I genuinely have started to get into some of these fishing games lately, just real fun, real chill, or even like fishing mini games like Red Dead 2, you know, going fishing in that. And another thing that I've started getting into lately is golf, which I was never really a golf guy, but then I started, like, you know, I've always played Mario Golf and like Wii Sports Golf over the years, but it's just one of those things where I did it passively. But lately, I've been playing like Mario Golf World Tour on my 3DS, and it is just, it's so addicting, you know, because again, it's a game I played back in the day, but now that I'm actually like getting into golf and like understanding it, do I golf in real life? No, I don't go outside. I just, no, I do go outside. I run 6.5 miles a day, which I know that's a weird number, but it's just because of the routes that I take in my neighborhood. I do 4 different runs throughout the day, one early in the morning, one in the mid-morning around 10 a.m., one in the early afternoon, and one in the evening, just to get my steps in and also just get my time in outside, just get my recommended, you know, like 60-ish minutes outside, roughly. It's a little less than that, but still, I get my time outside. But regardless, you know, I don't like going outside for too long now, but playing golf games and actually trying to learn about it and just get better at it, it's been a lot of fun, especially with games like Wii Sports or Mario Golf. Again, just going back to it because I've been playing those games for years, but now that I'm actually starting to understand it more, it's really fun finding those nuances. Like, all right, how can I get this into the hole with as few putts as possible? And then when you're able to get like an eagle putt or a birdie putt, it's just, and you actually like make it in, it's just I don't know, it's like a whole different kind of satisfying. Especially in like Mario Golf World Tour, where your little me and the campaign mode specifically, or the castle mode, whatever you want to call it, where it like does the little dances and stuff. It's just, I love it. Anyways, I believe we're on Road Rash 3D, and then we have the roller cage, and then we come over here, we got, oh my gosh, yeah, some of these I really need to, like, see, I'm the type of guy where when I have a game in a case, I always turn it vertically before I close the case, so I need to do the same thing with this binder here. We got Saltwater, Sport Fishing, Samurai Jack, that is just a DVD, don't know why that's in here, I guess it just didn't have a case for it. Shrek Treasure Hunt, Skydiving Extreme, Soviet Trek, the Spyro Trilogy. I wish I had it CIB, I really do. That one hurts my heart to know I don't have it CIB, but I'll fix that before too long. Also, Spyro A Hero's Tale, a very nostalgic one from my childhood, because again, mainly growing up with the PS2. Really sad, because I used to have this one CIB, but now I don't, so definitely going to get an official case for that one at this point. That's kind of my goal here. I'll print out the covers and buy separate jeweled cases on Amazon or something for the games that don't have cases in here for the PS1, but for the PS2 ones, that's kind of different. I'd rather actually get, like, the official thing for that, but for the PS1 ones, I'm willing to kind of whatever, just because there's so many of them. And also, just recreating PS2 stuff isn't as easy as it is to recreate CD stuff, because recreating the CD stuff, like the cover arts and the cases and all that for PS1, like the easiest thing in the world, honestly. Or maybe not the easiest thing in the world. It did take me a bit of time to figure out the measurements, and clearly I'm still trying to figure some of this stuff out, but, you know, it's pretty easy in comparison. Anyway, then we have Star Wars Masters, Star Trek Invasion, Street Fighter Collection, and then we come over here, and then Street Fighter Collection Disc 2, another one that I wish I had CIB, the Siphon Filter games, Siphon Filter 1, 2, as well as 3, Sony, please do something with Siphon Filter. You gave it love for so many years on the PS1 and the PSP and all that, and now all you can do nowadays is re-release the games on the PS Premium service, as well as, you know, putting them up for sale. Like, I get it, okay? Not every game needs to become some long, multi-decade running long franchise, but Siphon Filter is one of those where it's like, man, it would be cool just to revisit that franchise at least once. Same thing with SOCOM. I know SOCOM is completely different from Siphon Filter, but I was just thinking of shooters and it just popped into my mind. There's so many IPs that Sony could revisit between like Killzone, Resistance. List goes on and on. We're not even going to start, or otherwise I'll get into a whole other tangent and rambling session. Tetris Plus, great game. Love Tetris. Love Tetris. The Dukes of Hazzard, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Hurts I don't have it CIB. Pro Skater 2. Really wish I had it CIB. I used to. Don't know where the case went. That one hurts. Very, very nostalgic games from my childhood. And boy, oh boy, when I say that I put like 100 hours into Pro Skater, the 1 and 2 remake, within like the first week of it releasing, that is not a joke. I love Tony Hawk so much. And then Transformers Beast Wars, and then, oh gosh, it's getting hardest to read some of these. Okay, Trick and Snowboarder. Nice. And then Vigilante 8, and then we come to the back here, Vigilante 8 2, War Games, DEFCON 1, Wipeout 3, and then Xena, Princess Warrior, and then after that, we have X-Men Mutant Academy, as well as Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. Great game right there, let me tell you, as well as X-Men Mutant Academy. Great, really fun fighting game. published by Activision as well. Now that Microsoft owns them, maybe they could do like a remake or like revisit this somehow. I know the licensing is complicated because there's also like Marvel stuff in there, but I mean, hey man, it was published by Activision. That's at least one of the things down. And then, okay, I lied. The entire binder isn't filled up. There's still 2 sleeves or oh wait, no, there's also a disc in the back. Oh, I remember. This is actually for actually I forget what that is for. Oh, that's my free DVD boot because when I modded a PS2 Slim, so that's what that is. I decided to keep it in here. So there's technically 2, 4, 6, 8 sleeves that aren't filled with PS1 games, but otherwise the rest are, barring the 2 PS2 games, the 1 DVD, and the Monsters Inc. Pinball PC game as well. But anyways, I forget what I said I was gonna title this video. The least favorite part of my collection, is that what I said? Whatever. But anyways, yeah, that is the least favorite or least desirable, whatever you want to call it, part of my collection. It does not have anything to do with the games themselves, rather just the way they've been stored due to circumstances for one reason or another, as I explained earlier. I apologize if you feel like this video was way longer than it needed to be, if I did way too much rambling, if I got sidetracked too much. To put it simply, that's what I do here. As a content creator, I will always do my absolute best to respect the viewer's time, but that being said, I do always try to make it known up front that, oh gosh, okay, I was getting worried I was about to break the zipper there. But I always do try to make it known up front that, like, hey, I have ADHD and OCD and stuff like that, and those two things kind of feed into each other when I'm trying to have a conversation. So sometimes I'll run in circles, sometimes I'll say the same thing a couple of times, or sometimes I'll feel the need to explain things or go in depth about things that probably don't even matter to you in the grand scheme of things. But again, that's just kind of how I am when I make more chill, laid back, sit down and talk and have a conversation videos like this. So always keep that in mind. You know, when you come and watch a video like this from me, you're not gonna be getting in out, you know, like 10 minutes. No, this is a laid back, we're gonna hang out for like half an hour to an hour and just kind of talk about whatever's on my mind. So hopefully you don't mind that. Hopefully my voice isn't completely killing your ears at this point. I mean, I know it's killing my ears just hearing it, so I can't even imagine how you feel. So at this point, I'll shut up, I'll stop rambling, and as soon as I not only order the cases for this, but also enough ink and paper to print out the cover arts, and I make this little dream of mine a reality of actually turning these into the CIB copies, then I will update you guys with that, and hopefully we can fill out like a couple rows of a bookshelf of these incomplete games to join my other PS1 games, because these will just slot in with my collection again, even though they aren't official. It's one of those things where this is my collection, and also due to the circumstances that I explained earlier, it would be kind of hard to actually make these officially CIB without costing me an arm, leg, kidney, and possibly half of my heart. And also, you know, with my collection, I'm not one of those collectors that ever plans to sell my stuff. I plan to hold on to it until the day I die, and the day I die, it can get passed on to my siblings, because I never plan to get married or have kids, so, you know, it can just get passed on to my siblings or my siblings' children, and it can just kind of go on from there to any of the passionate gamers in my family, and I hope none of them ever actually sell them and can kind of keep it there. But even if they do sell them or give them away, then I just hope that they find a happy home with whoever they end up with for any other passionate or enthusiast gamers, if that's the word. Sorry, my brain is just turning into Play-Doh right now. But yeah, never plan to sell this collection, so it's one of those things where, sure, having it officially CIB would be desirable, but it's my collection, and sometimes, you know, I'm just working with what I got, and sometimes there's only so much you can do when it comes to getting stuff officially, especially when you get to a point where it's like, hey, getting a CIB copy or even case-only copy of Dino Crisis. Yeah, sorry, say goodbye to your leg if you want to afford it. But anyway, as always, my shout out to all the Patreons and channel members saying on the low baller tier, to make shout out to the big baller tier, my last game, dad man, and the shit that's on G tier, run events, and let's go. Thank you guys so much. You guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.